That?
Even though it's only you and I right now, we are live. Yeah. It is 1 o'clock. We are on time. Whew.
Support for third-party storage. Update file format.
So yeah, you can hear
Josh
update his file formats.
What is this doing this? There we go.
Did you see the hit on Lawton?
No. Bad?
I thought it was legal. It was
I saw people thought it was clean, so I didn't even take a look at it.
I thought it was legal, but there were a lot of Flyers fans, of course, you didn't. But you know, I thought it was a really good hit. Actually, we'll bring it up. But what do you think of Dubnyk? I mean, we'll get into it in the show, but Dubnyk, man, that guy's got more lives than. You know, how many places can Devin Dubnyk play?
Yeah. Well, look at where he's played the last 2 or 3 years. He's been on like 5 different teams.
Yeah. And he hasn't. It's never worked well. Hey, Mike, we're live. Just let you know.
Okay.
I wanted to go live right away.
Did you invite Ryan?
Yes, I did. I invited Ryan. Nothing.
Well, we had the Academy Award nominations this morning.
Yes. Why don't you talk about that for 1 second while I put this whole bugger in my blog.
Did Cooper get nominated for actor? Okay,
yes.
good.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you should be happy because American Sniper got nominated for Best Picture and for Bradley Cooper for Best Actor, which was a little bit of a surprise since he didn't get nominated for the Golden Globe.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that the fact that it was the Hollywood Foreign Press Association that does the nominations for the Golden Globes, there's an international feel with that sort of lends itself to sort of anti-American sentiment, but that's just my personal opinion.
Nah.
But the Academy...
Anti-American sentiment.
Yes.
What's it called? Do you think you guys didn't see Gone Girl yet?
No.
Ben Affleck got screwed, though.
What's that?
Ben Affleck.
Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen it, but I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. I'm surprised Ben Affleck didn't get nominated for that as well.
Well, the wife in the movie did. And
well, I think because she's smoking hot, she got nominated.
Nah, well, she's a former Bond girl.
We are live, by the way, just so everyone knows. It's okay. You can say smoking hot and not.
Yeah. I didn't use any F words. I didn't drop any F bombs.
Her name is Rosamund Pike, and she was in one of the I think it was the Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan and Halle Berry. Which everybody remembers for Halle Berry coming out of the water in a rather nice bathing suit, but okay.
Did you see? Why the hell did it do that? My printer printed on the. I guess it saves paper. Anyway, my printer wants to save paper.
All right, why do you have a printer? I mean, what do you have?
He has an environmentally conscious
pet. What are you printing out stuff for?
It printed on one side and the other side. I'm like, what the hell?
Are you like me? Like, because I have an assistant, a personal assistant who prints out every email of mine and brings it to my desk every morning so I can read it. That's obviously not true.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a long commute from Buffalo to do that, Ak, I have to tell you.
Right, yeah. But you do it, Mike, and I appreciate that.
I will say a movie that I watched, and I don't know, maybe I just don't get the humor. And it was nominated, and I think it won a couple awards in the Globes this year. And it's nominated, I saw, for the Emmys as well. Even Elliot Friedman tweeted this morning that it was overrated.
What?
Hotel Budapest or something.
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, such a boring movie. I
watched it, and I'm like, why am I wasting my time watching this? I don't get it.
It's the typical Wes Anderson black comedy. It's a sort of honestly it's the sort of mindset that if you like Woody Allen movies,
we're watching Pin Dry.
Right, certain people like Woody Allen movies like that type of humor. Certain people like Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, I was surprised he even won it. Right? Like,
Some people think it's funny. Other people think the Farrelly brothers are hilarious.
My wife and I ran into that one night, and we were like, "Oh, let's watch a movie, and hang out." We got the kids finally to sleep. We're like, "Oh, we'll rent the Budapest Hotel movie," and we're both sitting there about after a half hour. We looked at each other like, "What are we doing with our lives?" It's like, what are we? Why? I mean, we get so few moments of this solitude. What are we thinking?
I got about 45 minutes and said, "I'm done. I'm done."
On a completely different level of comedy. I didn't see the movie.
Not funny level. The level that's right before funny.
I didn't see the movie in the theaters. But I saw snippets of it. Now
I would literally kill myself in the theaters if I was watching that movie.
Did any of you see the sequel to Anchorman? Or like the first one?
Yeah, it was okay.
I liked the first one, but I saw
better than Grand Budapest Hotel.
Drop the Grand Budapest Hotel. We all agree it sucks. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's my that's what I use to.
I'm trying to segue to something else here.
Okay.
Jesus
Sorry. That's my the bar I set.
Holy moly!
Okay.
Excuse me for all Catholics out there. Sorry. No, but you know the centerpiece scene from Anchorman is the fight scene. You know, remember with Tim Robbins and Ben Stiller and all. Well, I think the fight scene from the second one was better. You have to pull it up on YouTube, but it had like Liam Neeson, Harrison Ford, Will Smith, Tina Fey, and Amy Poehler.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey and Marion Cotillard, who just got nominated for some movie I never heard before. But they play Canadian news. He's like a CBC host, and she's the Quebecois, the French-speaking version.
I like that scene, Mike. I like that scene, but the problem is Jim Carrey kills it because he apologizes and he says sorry rather than sorry. Like,
and he's Canadian.
Canadian accent, right, man? You're Canadian. I know you've lost it after years in California, but gee.
Yeah, that's seriously bad.
Because that when I was living in the U.S., that was the only way I could truly identify that someone was Canadian, is by when they would say sorry rather than sorry.
Right. Or if they're heading to the forest.
That's true. Or if they smelled like maple syrup.
Right, forest.
Or if they said Toronto or Toronto.
Yeah.
I say Toronto.
Organization.
Organization. Yes, I like when one of my big pet peeves. We'll start the show in a sec. Kevin's, I think, going to be joining us, but I'm not sure. I think so, as far as I know. Anyway, one of my absolute biggest pet peeves is hockey people on podcasts or television or wherever who are not American, who are not Canadian, who say organization. Sorry. It's like the organization. It feels mocking of Canadians. But it also feels like, come on, you only get that right if you lived in Canada to say organization.
Yeah, true.
I think that's my clicking. Sorry, it's not my clicking.
You probably have the browser open for the...
Yeah, I'm going to close everything and see what happens. Except for this browser, of course.
Except shutting off the actual webcast.
Podcast itself, yes.
So we get to talk about the many lives of Devin Dubnyk today here on the Buzzcast.
I know.
Yeah. The Coyotes just recalled their goaltender from the Gwinnett Gladiators of the East Coast Hockey League.
Mm.
Does that mean that they lost another goalie?
Well, they lost Dubnyk, right?
Well, I mean, I didn't know if they lost if they lost another guy. I mean, was that the plan to bring the guy up from the East Coast Hockey League to be the backup?
Maybe he's the next superstar. Who knows?
Mike Lee.
Maybe they're trying to out-tank the Oilers.
He did play for the Gladiators.
We'll get into the Dubnyk thing for sure.
Yeah.
The Lego Movie, by the way, got screwed. Because I'm telling you what, that people are sitting back and saying, they talk about, obviously it's a kids movie, but
it got nominated for Best Song.
Wait, which one's that?
Everything is
Lego
Awesome.
Movie.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's a great song, but the Lego Movie itself is absolutely friggin' hilarious. It's funnier. What was that, Josh?
Did you see Big Hero 6 Act?
I did. I like Big Hero 6, but not as much as Lego Movie.
Really?
I liked Big Hero 6 a lot. It was very good. It was cool, a cool theme. It had a little bit of darkness into it. It was good.
What about Book of Life?
Book of Life I liked. I saw did that book that was made over 12 years get in there? I saw what's that called? The movie
Boyhood.
Boyhood. Did that get nominated?
Yeah, it got nominated a lot.
It should have. That was an awesome movie.
Ethan
It's
Hawke.
pretty cool to do that over 12 years.
Yeah, it was incredibly well done. I mean, and it was just very cool. I mean, it's you have to admire. I mean, if you work for 12 years, you should at least get a nomination out of it, right? Because it was something. I mean, it was definitely.
Yeah. An inventive way of filmmaking. That's why he'll get the Richard Linklater. He'll get either best screenplay or best director because it was an inventive method of filming. Just like
He did pretty well at the Globes.
Yeah.
Bill Murray came out and said that the best movie he ever did was Groundhog Day. Did you see that?
I agree.
And then he came out 24 hours later and said the best movie he ever did was Groundhog Day.
Ha ha ha.
Wow, all the doom and gloom in Canada today. They just announced that they're closing all the Target stores they just opened, and they're closing all the Sony stores.
Target. What Target?
That's really strange. What's going on in Canada? Don't they like Target?
Target's pulling out apparently.
It's Target in Canada.
Yes.
And Sony, I'm surprised, is pulling out too.
All right. So, well, let's get started here.
Let's get started. Kevin, I think, will be joining us. Kevin is in the midst of something going on right now. He texted me, but he will be with us.
I wonder if it's the dollar.
Could be.
Screwing
Yeah,
everything.
the dollar is.
Well, Prokhorov, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, is selling the NBA franchise and probably the building because the ruble is being devalued. So everything is being tied to the price of oil going down. So it's.
I got gas for 77 cents a liter yesterday. Amazing. Cost me $47 to fill up my tank.
And I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express once. Okay.
I have a really good scoop on Brodeur.
Goalie coach?
Nope.
Well, it was announced yesterday he was taking a week leave of absence.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds to me like the, this is an end around them carrying 3 goaltenders, with him waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, that's about right. That's in my notebook here. Wait a second. All right, let's start. I have an actual notebook that I use. Yes, indeed, I do. I have a notebook where I write certain rumors in, then I have to write this in, but I will remember it or speak of it. Here we go. Okay.
Remember, it's 2015.
It is 2015. Dad yesterday. It was. All right. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday. It's January 15th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Ryan Garner.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I'm Eklund, and obviously I didn't look at the date, but I was a guess. It was a good guess, and I got it right. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com today, coming to you live from all points here and there. Are you still up in Canada, Ryan?
I'm in Lethbridge, Alberta, moving to Edmonton, Alberta this weekend.
Oh, you're moving back to Edmonton. Excellent.
Back to the City of Champions.
Yes, because you actually are the interim general manager of the Edmonton Oilers.
When did the Eskimos last win?
Oh my goodness!
I want them to start calling players like interim. He's the new interim center. We're just gonna give him, he's not gonna be there forever, but he's a center for now. Because all players are interim, really, when you think about it. Yeah. All right. Let's start with Kevin Allen will be joining us hopefully later on. He's got tied up in a meeting, so we'll see what happens there. But we're going to start with Devin Dubnyk, who is doing the out of the playoffs Western Conference team crawl, and which has now landed him in Minnesota. And there's a lot of rumors about Minnesota and the Wild looking into goalies, and this was not one of them because this is really not a long-term solution for the Minnesota Wild. But this is not a bad move in my mind because Dubnyk has his moments when he looks really good, but my gosh, he is as Minnesota goalie as you can get. I mean, he fits the profile of all other Minnesota goalies that they have right now. So to me, this is just adding another player, another goalie who could be hurt or inconsistent at any given time. Ryan, you have some experience with Devin Dubnyk, obviously. What are your thoughts on this pickup?
I mean, what is Minnesota's game plan? Because Dubnyk is not a solution. I mean,
No.
he's an option, right? He might be a better option than what they currently have there, but I don't think anyone thinks that he's a guy who can come in and nail down a permanent job, nail down the starting job forever. I mean, he bounced around so much last season after imploding in Edmonton, went to Nashville, went to Montreal, ended up in Phoenix, and the problem with Phoenix was either he was playing too well to justify keeping him on the team, they saw some value in a third-round pick, so they were able to move him, and they're paying Mike Smith so much that they couldn't justify not playing Mike Smith for the amount that they're paying him, right? So it kind of, Dubnyk was in a tough spot where he kind of was able to prove himself a little bit and play some good hockey, but I guess he gets an opportunity to show what he can do in Minnesota, and if he takes that job and runs with it, maybe he's there, for another year or two. We'll see what he can do. But the problem with Dubnyk has just been, well, in Edmonton anyway, was just some of his positioning, some of going down too early on those shots, and for a tall guy, for a guy who's 6'4", he was being beat top corner way too often, and so I think. It benefited him working with Sean Burke, another big goaltender who's the goaltending coach out there in Arizona, who kind of worked on some of his fundamentals and things like that, some of his positioning. And so it's interesting, actually. I'm living here in Lethbridge, and I've played poker with Dubnyk's dad and brother a couple times. And so it's funny because we were actually out last night, and someone was saying to Dubnyk's dad, well, it looks like a whole new wardrobe, because he would always wear his Edmonton Oilers gear, and then he was wearing his Arizona Coyotes gear every time anyone would see him, and now got to switch over to the green of the Minnesota Wild. So I'm rooting for the kid. I hope he does well out there, and he's definitely getting a good opportunity with a franchise that needed goaltending above all else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're joined by Kevin Allen, top of his head at least. And Kevin has fallen into a well or in quicksand. Oh, there he is. We're talking. How are you, Kev? Well, he's not. He's getting there.
While he's getting situated.
While Kevin gets situated up, and he can hear us obviously, but.
Well, let me just say that the addition of Dubnyk smacks of what they did last year with Brizgalov. It was a low-cost option to add a goaltender. You know, Dubnyk's played 19 games this year with the Coyotes and has around a .915 save percentage, so he's doing, a lot better than he did in this 3 stops last year. And it's giving them an option. I mean, clearly. Them going out and getting him means that Josh Harding doesn't appear to be in the picture. Backstrom has had his injury problems. Kemper has had his inconsistency problems. And they don't have to make room for a big salary like a Cam Ward or pay a significant price to get a Jonas Enroth. But I think that they've done it early enough that they leave themselves open for options like that with 6 weeks to go before the trade deadline.
I think that's what it comes down to. Kevin, how are you? Great,
thank you very much. Sorry I'm late.
No worries at all. We were just on time, which is rare. What are your thoughts on the Dubnyk acquisition?
Well, I think Mike summed it up pretty well. There were a lot of different options they had. There were goaltenders that were available who were either a bigger roll of the dice or were more costly, and the Wild opted to get a guy who they felt gave them a chance to be better, but didn't cost a lot. And Dubnyk, when you look at his numbers, a .910 career save percentage, that's just significantly better than where they have been at this season. They've been second to last in save percentage for most of the season, and they think Dubnyk is a very inexpensive way to try to better their position. And their situation is, I wouldn't call it desperate, but I think they're 8 points back. We're about the halfway point. They've got to start now if they want to climb back into this. We've talked before about when you're 6 or 8 points back and you've got several teams to jump over, it's basically a half-season project to try to get back in it. So they're going to have to play, 700% hockey the rest of the way if they want to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There are goalies out there who, I classify goalies a lot in different ways to me. And the kind of goalie Minnesota needs right now is the kind of goalie that's not going to lose them a game, right? They need a goalie who's going to be able to play solid. They don't necessarily need a goalie to win them games. It helps, of course, to have a goalie who can win you a couple games, and steal a couple games. But they really need a goalie who's consistent, who's going to do kind of what Halak has done, with the Islanders. Just comes in there and just plays consistent hockey. Not going to lose a game for you, in my mind, And
the name of somebody in the recent past for the Wild and for the Oilers would be a guy like Dwayne Rollison, a steady veteran guy.
I thought Thomas Vokoun, that's why I went with Thomas Vokoun to me. That's the kind of guy, and I'm surprised, with Craig Leopold in Minnesota and the connection he has with Thomas Vokoun in Nashville. I was kind of surprised that Vokoun didn't get a look. He retired and just retired because he couldn't find a place to play, and maybe he's over the hill or whatever, but if you brought in Brizgalov, I'm going to throw it there, that you might as well bring in Vokoun. That to me is, for this kind of player you're going for now, because Dubnik's been a lot of places and has not stuck in many places, and he's a good goalie and has his moments, but he is the kind of goalie who can win you a game on situations, but he also can let up bad goals, in my mind. So he's more of the same of what the Wild have. He's more of the Kemper type goalie than the consistent shut the door goalie. Josh, what do you have going on now with Pekka Rinne, the latest?
Well, Thomas Willis, who's the interactive media manager for the Nashville Predators, he runs their website. He just tweeted, Pekka Rinne saw the doctor this morning and will be out now 3 to 5 weeks. So that's not good news for Nashville, and you got to think that they're going to have to do something as well to bring in a goaltender. Yeah. It's longer than 3 games in the All-Star.
Yeah, it was they were initially saying 1 to 2 weeks, 3 to 5 weeks.
Yeah.
We got to get that from a lot of different places, but we'll find out for sure.
He's with the Predators. I don't.
Yeah.
I would think.
I don't doubt it at all. But I'm just saying that from some of the people I talked to this morning, it didn't seem like it was that bad. No matter how you slice it, it's a bad. It's a bad thing for the Predators. Obviously, Pekka Rinne is the most valuable player in the NHL, in our opinion, and some of our opinions.
Well, the funny thing is, Zach, is in the last couple of days, the goaltending market that seemed to be really not there. Now all of a sudden, if you're a team that has a goaltender, I think you could extract a rather significant price. We're going to talk about Brodeur, but you have teams like the Sabres, who have 2 UFA goalies, and Michael Neuwirth and Jonas Enroth, who do have experience. Maybe a team like Edmonton, who's clearly rebuilding, can move a Victor Fast, even though he's played terribly in Edmonton, but he's got experience.
Fast is an interesting guy. I agree with you, Mike, on that one. Fast could actually. He's just in a bad situation in Edmonton, but we've seen that. To me, and I muted you, Kevin. When you come back, you can unmute yourself. When Victor Fast, that's a name that I would, if I was Nashville, I would look at, in this situation like this. He's the kind of goalie that Minnesota should have gone after, in my mind. He's the kind of goalie who will be consistent, make big saves, doesn't let a lot of easy goals in, and in a normal situation, when he's playing with a team that plays defense in front of him, it's hard to put any goalie in front of the Edmonton defense and tell you what's going to happen, right? So, in Anaheim, Victor Fast was really solid.
Well, we lost Dak there for a second. I'm sure he'll call back any minute, but there he comes.
Sorry, I'm back. Like I was saying, the Wild. You have me now?
Yeah, you're back. Your video got all scrambly there for a second.
What I was saying was that the Wild and the Ducks, to me, play a similar type of game. On the defensive end, they both play solid defense. It's a lot like New Jersey, which is why Brodeur, a lot of people thought would be a good fit there originally. So, Victor Fast is a guy that, the Wild should look at and the Predators should look at. Kevin, do you think the Predators will make a move now with this 3 to 5 weeks possible? Kevin can't hear us, maybe.
Well, while we wait for
There, I'm back.
Okay, cool. Do you see them making? Do you see the Predators making a possible move now? 3 to 5 weeks.
No, I don't. I think they'll sort of hang in there. I think with the All-Star break being in the middle of all this, I think that helps a little bit. We're already, let's see, 10. Yeah, I guess that he probably missed another 3 games. If he's going to be gone 3 weeks, he missed another 3 games after the All-Star game. So it looks, sounds like he'll miss 6 or 7 games. I think they could hang in there, for that long.
And the one benefit here, Ak, is that Carter Hutton played 40 games last year and didn't play badly. So as long as they have,
well, yeah, he was in Philly for a while. We had him. I like Carter Hutton. He was on Phantoms for a while, and yeah, but I do think, and it does occur to me, and what I wrote today in my blog, and we're jumping all over a little bit here, but what I wrote today is I really do think that if Marty Brodeur does want to play, this is actually a good fit for him. Not because this is really. The thing with Carter Hutton is the Predators have a window right here. This is they're obviously a lightning in a bottle team, right? This is a year where they're going to go pretty far. Now they might be good for many years to come. This is a young nucleus. This might still stay, but right now they're going to the playoffs. Rene is injury prone. If you're in, and you can't not say, and it's part of his game is he's an aggressive goalie. He's going to get hurt. Last night he's out of the net. He gets hurt. He's got to play his game. You're not going to keep him back there. You're not going to protect him. So why not have an experienced guy? Like if you're the best team in the NHL and Carter Hutton's your backup goalie, I think you got a problem. And I don't mean that in a bad way to Carter Hutton at all. I just think that if you're going into the playoffs and you're one hit away from Carter Hutton having to win you a Game 7 against the Chicago Blackhawks, that's an issue to me. Why not Marty Brodeur in this spot? Kev?
Well, I think also the Predators being in the Western Conference and divisional playoffs, if they slip a little bit, is it going to hurt them in terms of their run for the playoffs? Like, I think it really matters in the East who you're going to play. In the West, I don't think it does.
Yeah, I don't think it matters either. I agree, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. I do. I just think that I just look at that scenario, like I said. In a playoff series, you lose your goalie. Where do you go? And wouldn't you rather go to Marty Brodeur or have a Marty Brodeur around? Because the Predators don't have a lot of guys who've even gone to the playoffs, on their roster.
Yeah. No, there's logic to what you're saying because, what you're saying obviously is that having a veteran guy who's been there before is a preferable situation than what the Predators have now, where they have an unproven playoff guy as the backup.
And what about Thomas Vokoun there? And I know Vokoun is retired, but wouldn't that be a great story? If Vokoun was to go back there and I don't know, even just to be the third guy, just around in case something happens. I don't know. You need a third goalie if you're a Predators right now. You have to look that way. You have to look.
Let's find Dan Ellis. Let's get Anders Lindback back.
I know that the answer that a GM would say in this is that no one who has to go to their backup goalie is probably going to win the Stanley Cup, regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, but that to me is a tough. When you have a situation like you, as good as you are, and the Predators have. When you look at the season, and I watch almost every Predators game because they're one of my favorite teams, right? When you look at the way the Predators have won, early on it was very much Pekka Rinne. Lately, they've actually won these games without. Pekka's been good and really good at times, but it's become more of the team winning these games, not as much of Pekka Rinne stealing games from them. There have been some games where he's stolen them, but. Lately, they've won a lot of these games that they've won just because they've outscored the other team, and that was the bottom line. They outplayed the other teams too. So
because their confidence has grown. I think now now that they have that rock back there in Rinne, they can maybe take a few more chances and they know that he's back there. But with him not back there now, if it's 3 weeks, it's 9-10 games or something like that, and like Kevin said, the All-Star game is in there as well, so that'll. Take a few games off of it. I'm not looking at their schedule right now, but to your point, if Rinne comes back and then he gets hurt in the playoffs, just like Montreal, they were done when it was Dustin Tokarski. That's the dice that you roll when you go into the playoffs. If your number one goaltender gets hurt, you are pretty much done.
You have options. You don't have to. I get that you're done, but you don't have to be done. I mean, you have guys out there.
No, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
you are done, Eck. I mean, it's that's just the way it goes. I mean, name a backup goalie that's risen up and won a Stanley Cup. I mean, really, the only guy that comes to mind is Cam Ward, but that was a special circumstance. He was a younger player. They were, there was an injury and he kind of stepped up. But for the most part, if you got to have your top goalie in order to win.
No, that's true. I mean,
you can't make major moves based on a long shot contingency. I guess it's not long enough. I mean, that would be like saying, should the Red Wings go out and, for a 2 to 4 week injury and replace, Jimmy Howard, bringing in a guy that's going to be disruptive to the salary cap situation. I mean, I think you got to ride it out. I think that this is just one of those things that happen. Now, if it was 6 to 8 weeks or 8 to 10 weeks,
right.
I mean, there becomes a point, but I'm not sure a 3 to 5 week injury is that point.
But it's Pecorino too. I mean, this is not like a goalie. This is not the first time he's gotten hurt. I would be making this argument even if he was perfectly healthy right now. I'd be making this argument. To me, this is just a moment when you're looking at it's not going to take you a lot to go out and get yourself a guy who has played in the playoffs before. It's not going to take a lot to get him. I mean, it's not to get Brodeur is going to cost you probably nothing. Now, would St. Louis even move him to Nashville? That's a possibility. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe St. Louis won't move him to an interdivisional team. I do have a big rumor on Brodeur that I'm going to throw out at the end of the show. So that's a teaser, but we're not going to talk about it to the very end of the show.
Well, I was just going to further Kevin's point is that the year that Ward sort of took over the job from Gerber in the playoffs was also the year, and Ryan will know this, that Rolison gets hurt. They bring in Ty Conklin, and who was it? UC Markkinen.
Well, let's talk Markkinen. Yeah, I mean Markkinen took him forever there, right? I mean Markkinen was a heck of a.
But that was one of the craziest years in NHL history, Yak. I'm saying.
Well, I remember Bernie Perron getting hurt, in 1976 after the Flyers had won the 2 Stanley Cups, and then that, obviously hurt him too. But they carried Wayne Stevenson, carried him. I mean, it's just. It depends.
The argument you're really making is you don't like their backup goal.
No, the argument I'm making. I
mean, that's really what it comes down to.
That's not it. Because this is my whole theory about the NHL goaltenders comes into play here. I've always believed that if you're a contending team, you need a backup who has playoff experience.
Well, look at the Canadians last year when Price goes down.
Right.
Tokarski steps in. If they had Brodeur on their roster, hey, that's a much better option than Tokarski, regardless of how they're playing, I think.
Right, exactly. And Tokarski does well, and goalies do well. They get in there, and he does well. But still, I mean, I've always believed in the theory that your best goalie is your starter, your backup is an experienced guy who can help your starter, who can step in to play those really big games, and your goalie of the future is in the AHL. And that's how I've always felt.
Well, I'll put the phone call into David Poyle. James Reimer is available.
Yeah, I think your argument, like you hear GMs talking all the time, that the backup goalie points are important.
Yeah,
and they are. In a parity league, if you have the wrong backup goalie, it could cost you 6 points, and that could be the difference in the playoffs. I mean, I think that's the truth. But I don't know whether or not you can make the leap that says, okay. If you're really thinking about trying to win a cup, you better make sure your goalie has playoff experience. I mean, I think Marty Brodeur's would be an upgrade, but you don't really know that. I mean, he's an older goalie, and
But he's showing. I mean, he's a pressure guy, right? And
yeah, I think so. But
you think so, right? How about Michael Neuwirth? I can never say his name.
Neuwirth.
Sorry. Michael Neuwirth. Here's another guy who went really well with the Capitals in the playoffs, right? Had a nice run. So there's another guy who's available, who is, and who you can get for probably very little out of Buffalo.
But I think you can kind of contingency plan yourself to death by thinking of, okay, what if this guy goes
when you're the best team in the league, not when you're the Nashville Predators, you're the best team in the league right now, and you've got your goalie's your most valuable player, and he's hurt, and he's injury prone, and you've got this window. That's getting an insurance goalie who's played in the playoffs, so Carter Hutton doesn't have to carry. That's not
crazy.
Pecorino
is injury prone.
All right, that's maybe not fair. Okay.
He's not Joffrey Lupul.
Even if he's not injury prone. All
well,
right.
I'll tell you what. I will give you a person who might agree with you, who would be a very valuable ally in this point, and that would be. Remember back wasn't so long ago when the Detroit Red Wings were the best team in the league, and who did Scotty Bowman wanted Billy Ranford to come in as their third goalie just because as an insurance policy because he was a little concerned about what was going to go on with his goalies and injury factor and experience and everything else. So they went out to trade deadline and got in a experienced guy just to have around in case. Just
and
in
it
case.
helped them, right? I mean, it did help them.
Well, I mean, they never ended up using him, but I mean, his argument. I mean, this was a guy, Scotty Bowman, that thought of every contingency, and the Red Wings went out and had the luxury. This was pre-salary cap, so they just brought in a guy and they had him there, just because Scotty was concerned about.
But this is and I appreciate that. I appreciate Scotty Bowman being on my side because I think I'm alone in this thing. But I think you guys are all nuts because I honestly really, and I'll say this is the last thing, I'll stop being a dead horse. We call this league, Kevin, you yourself have called this league a goalie league. This is a goalie league.
For sure.
Right? And we're talking about the most major position in, and you could throw this out there. It's, quarterbacks in the NFL are a similar thing to me. Like if you want a backup quarterback who's got some experience in the playoffs, because if you're a top team, otherwise you're in or at least your third string quarterback who's got some experience in the playoffs if you're a top team, because my gosh, you don't get to play game 7s all the time against the team, or you don't get to play game 6s all the time against the team. You have a chance here to actually do something spectacular, even if the goalie's just hurt for a couple days. But you have game 7 and suddenly you're throwing your backup in there. I mean, I was all over the Canadians last year all year because they didn't have a really solid. I'm still going to say the Canadians I don't think have a really solid backup behind Price. The Rangers I actually like their backup and I think I like him, but at the same time he is also, and I know you can't go out there and pay a lot of money to a backup goalie like Tuukka Rask. There's not a backup really behind. I mean, I'm talking about experienced guys who've played in the playoffs. That who has that? Who has that right now? Maybe the Flyers and Ray Emery have it the best of anyone. But Ray Emery's at least played in those pressure situations, right? So he steps in.
But also, it's weird saying to your team, okay, we're bringing in this hired gun, this mercenary type guy. I mean, look at what happened with Brodeur in St. Louis. Do you really want that distraction when the guy basically says, okay, you're not going to play me anymore, so I'm out of here? Like, I don't know if Nashville needs that distraction either, because then you have to manage that ego. But
Picareni, I agree with you in some situations. Maybe I get what you're saying there, but I'm telling you, this is why he wasn't in St. Louis, because Hitchcock feels this way, and I've talked to Hitchcock about this before, and he knows that you can never have enough defensemen and enough goalies in the playoffs. And he's always about having like 8 NHL defensemen in the playoffs because defensemen go down like flies in the playoffs sometimes. Put in that spot.
Well, I mean, having 8 defensemen is different than having a
How? Because this is a much more important position, and you're not going to pay anything to get the guy. We're talking about getting Michael Neuwirth, or what?
You don't think it costs you anything?
What's it going to cost you to get Michael Neuwirth?
Probably a third round pick.
I would say a second round pick because Dubnyk went for a third round pick. So I would. Don't you think if let me just put this: would the Wild have taken one of the Buffalo goalies if that cost them the same as for Dubnyk?
I agree, and I think they tried to get it in one of the bank.
I think the cost was higher. That would be
cost was higher. Yep. So they figured, okay, and I don't agree with this move on the Wild's part at all, honestly. But I think that they went out and they gambled on something that they're giving themselves time to see if this doesn't work because they still have time till the trade deadline, and they may have to pay that bigger price, and they kind of know it. But at the same time, the Wild aren't in the playoffs, So this is to me. It's not if you were in the playoffs, they can make that gamble, but they need to win games. That's another story. Anyway, this will be an interesting debate. We'll see how this plays out, but I honestly know I'm right in this one. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
It's of everybody else saying that you're wrong, but you're right.
Remember, I grew up in a city that had Pete Peters, who at one point, but who was a rookie, but Phil Muir was his backup, and Phil had a ton of experience. Ron Hextall, his backup was Chico Resch, if you remember. And Glenn Chikaresh. I've seen what these experienced goalies do for young goalies when they're coming through the system.
But Rene's not a young goaltender. He's an established goaltender.
Right. I know he's not a young goalie, but I see what having that experienced guy does. It's just
younger than Brodeur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If he's younger than Brodeur, right? Now that
I
being
mean,
said,
In Washington, we had Don Beaupre, and the backup was Jimmy Rivnak. Remember
right,
him?
right. I mean, it's
Stavarachi.
yep. I mean, how many times have we seen it? And it's just that's what I think. Backup goalies should be. They should be that kind of guy. And if your starter goes down for a long period of time, then you're calling, and you really need you call up your AHL guy, because he's your real goalie of the future.
Nabokov and Ben Bishop in Tampa,
Yeah, right. I just think that it's amazing to me how much we put on goalies and how important goalies are, and yet teams are willing to do
Let me
this.
have one final shot at this with
Yes.
you. Name me one backup goalie in the NHL who's with the team where if the number one goalie went down, their team would be the favorite to win the cup or would be just as strong in the playoffs with their backup goalie. I don't think there's a team in the NHL.
No, there probably isn't.
If Ben Bishop goes down, Nabokov is a perfect example of an experienced goalie.
Yes.
And if Bishop goes down, what do you think we'd be writing about the Tampa Bay Lightning's chances of winning the Stanley Cup?
They're screwed, right? And I get that. I mean, I do get that. But at the same time, if Bishop goes down with a slight tear and Nabokov has to come in Game 6 or part of Game 7 with the game tied, then you're talking about, wow, wasn't it great to have a guy like Nabokov to step in and fill that hole until Bishop could play again? And that's what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about.
That's a fair argument.
Yeah, I think the Kings would have they wouldn't have as good a chance with Quick and net, but Martin Jones is a good young goaltender and has played well in that system. I think that they would still have a chance to win and go far in the playoffs with him in goal, but that's more based on the system that they play. If you're relying on a goaltender, especially now with Nashville playing a more wide open style, and they're relying on Rene to be Rene. You don't have the luxury that LA does to plug in a goaltender like Martin Jones and play in a solid defensive system. So I think it's imperative that they get Rene back, and if Rene is not back, I don't think any goaltender that's out there who's a backup is going to help them win long term.
Not long term.
No, but I mean long term in terms of this season getting through playoff rounds. If they don't have Rene, they're not advancing.
Yeah,
probably not, but that it's not always long term. So, and just to stay on this mode for 1 second, and then we're out of here anyway. We're off this mode. But this is a picture I want you guys to see. This is a pretty cool picture. This is an open practice today that the Predators held. And check. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we talk about. People in Canada, and this is why I'm really sensitive because I like the Predators a lot and I like the organization and the people there. But this is a absolutely packed house that they had today. Just for an open practice in Nashville.
How are there so many people there? Does no one work in Nashville? What's going on?
That's right. Just a bunch of hippies and freaks who basically live off music and that's it.
The unemployment office was right next door.
Right, exactly. So, but I just thought that I always think that that's cool. I mean, to see that many people just at an open practice on a rogue Thursday, it is Thursday.
That's really cool.
So anyway, there you go. Just wanted to throw that out there. We're gonna go to oh man, I'm so thrown now. Braden Holtby, I want to talk about this for a second, and then we're gonna go right to the rumor chart. The game last night, Flyers Caps game, was a good one. Tough loss for the Flyers, obviously. But Braden Holtby, I'm a believer in Braden Holtby. I've been a believer in him for a while, and now this is his third shutout in his last 12 games he pitched last night. This guy's for real. I mean, I'm a Holtby guy, Kev.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody was early, if you remember. It's kind of riding the roller coaster. Like, he came in, he looked great. Everybody said, boy, this guy, and he wasn't one of those highly touted goalies. Like, there have been guys, in NHL history in the last 25 years who were drafted high, and, there were high expectations. But, he came on the scene, he looked really, really good, and then he sort of dipped. And now I think he's back on an upward swing. But I think, like with most goalies, it's the defense and the defensive scheme in front of them. Like when you're playing with a system that like Barry Trotz has now in Washington, I think it gives you a lot more confidence. And he's a skillful goalie. And now that they're limiting prime scoring chances and playing like a team that expects to not to see the puck in the back of their net. I think it's given him a lot of confidence, and he's playing like that. I've been impressed with him this season. I've seen him in several games, and he's playing like a guy that could be in the top 10 goalies in the league if he has a respectable team defense in front of him.
Oh yeah, and the Capitals, Mike. Go ahead.
And the thing is, I believe it's 23 or 24 games. He's played 23 games in a row. Justin Peters started a game in Toronto in late November, and I think that was the last game that he started. And he got smoked in the first period and got pulled. And then Holtby came in, and then Peters went back in. But ever since then, Holtby has started every game for the Caps, and that is gone hand in hand with their rise in the standings. Now to the fact that they won last night, now they're 7 points ahead of the next highest team for a wild card spot in the East. So I think Barry Trotz is going to stick with him, and they may need a backup goaltender, because I don't know if you want to play your starter 70 games and then go into the playoffs. But with the more defensively responsible system that they're playing, he's not getting as much work as he used to under other coaches like Adam Oates.
Right, that's for sure. It has been a really been pretty eye-opening. So now going to the rumor chart for a second. Today we're going to do our three players of the day, because we are getting down to trade deadline time, and I decided to go with these three today, just in honor of our guest Ryan. Guessers, I thought having Jeff Petrie on the list would be a good one. So today we're going with Mike Richards, Jeff Petrie, and Ryan O'Reilly. Three of my 40-some players on the rumor chart, and three that I think are I'm not going to say positive to move. O'Reilly is, I would maybe I should be, if I was to think about this a little bit more, we increase that to maybe 60 or 65% staying in Colorado. But I do think that Petrie here, is not likely to stay in Edmonton. And Mike Richards, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But what are your thoughts on this list, Mike? You want to pick something and go with it?
I'll stick with Richards and O'Reilly. Richards, honestly, I paid a lot of attention to him, and it's a one game, sort of a thumbnail sketch when he was on Monday when the Leafs played the Kings, and he was given a larger role because Toffoli and Pearson were out of the lineup, so he played more minutes than he normally has been playing. And honestly, I didn't notice him. And not to say that he cannot get back to where he was earlier in his career with LA and with Philadelphia, but the problem is that contract is through 2020, and it's $5.75 million. And unless the Kings, take a massive haircut on that contract, if they take $2 million off of it, I think they'll get some feelers from teams who would love to have him as a third line center. Honestly, with that cap hit, I don't think Toronto is at all going to be interested in Mike Richards unless they can turn around and trade David Clarkson or Joffrey Lupul in the deal and make the cap hit equivalent, but then that defeats the purpose for the Kings because they want to open up the cap room to sign Toffoli and Pearson. So I'd be skeptical about Richards in Toronto, but there might be other teams that have room that could definitely use him. And O'Reilly, I think O'Reilly is going to move. I don't know if it's going to be now or if it's going to be during the summer because of the $6 million cap hit. But I would increase the 15% with Toronto. I think he's a guy, based on the character of the core group in Toronto, that they would love to build around as opposed to the guys that they currently have.
Okay. Kev, you want to take a shot at any of these guys?
Yeah, I do. I think for Mike Richards, I've been guilty of what I often accuse general managers of doing, and that is where the romance of Richards is... for me, has been greater than the reality of Richards. And I really felt that, as I've said on the show, I think he still has value. I just don't think he's the scorer that, we thought he was going to be when he came into the league, or maybe even that he was at the start of his career. But I've spoken to a couple of general managers about Richards, and they just think as Mike alluded to with regard to the Maple Leafs, is true for all teams, that the contract is too heavy for what he is bringing to games. And I think there's a feeling that he's not the player that everyone anticipated he would be, He's not even the player that he was at the start of his career. So I think he's going to be more difficult to move. And this is a change of heart for me because I felt that there was still a chance they could move that teams would buy into the idea that, on another team, like if you played for a team like the Arizona Coyotes, for example, if suddenly he went up and he was playing a lot of minutes and got top 6 time, that he could be a valuable addition. But I've discovered that the teams don't believe that they think he is what he is now. So I don't know. I think he's going to be hard to move for LA.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I'm going to throw this out there though, in the whole thing of it, in the whole scheme of it. I'm sorry, let me get this back to normalcy for a second. I think that Mike Richards is the consummate team player and is doing what he's being told to do in LA. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, there are games when he does disappear to a degree. I completely agree with you, but he's also such a clutch player, and that's when on this list, the Penguins, the Capitals, two teams that the playoffs, that could use that kind of a player in the playoffs. That's I've heard for sure that the Penguins have interest. And I was told that I heard it earlier in the year. I heard it again now. I don't know whether or not it's going to happen, but I've heard for sure, and I know that the Maple Leafs have interest, and he fits in the Maple Leafs really well. And I mean, the question is this: we look at Richards, look at Justin Williams. Okay, who do you like more? If you're going to go out and trade for a guy, just take the contract out. Forget about the contract for a second. I know that's hard to do, but just forget about it for a second.
Yeah, you really can't.
You can't do it.
I don't think my argument with the contract is this. I know, but my argument with the contract is this: in a couple years, every top 6 forward in the NHL is going to be over $5 million.
But the argument here is that Mike Richards is not a top 6 forward anymore.
Well, and we're always talking about this season. Like, I know what you're saying, and because I make that argument all the time.
Yeah.
That when everybody says, well, you're signing this guy and that's too much money. Well, 3 years from now, when the cap's at $80 million, it's going to be. But the problem is this season. I mean, trying to squeeze a $5 million plus player into anybody's cap structure right now is hard, and you cannot separate that. Like, every GM that you talk to who makes trades always points out that fans always want to just say, okay, well, just think of the players first and all that. Well, you can't do that. They all worked. It works together, and Richards' money, like, I still believe he has value. And I think teams would like to have him. I'm just saying it's just hard to move that contract.
Yeah.
Right now, given where he's at, and I like him.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to do something, but not at a 5.7. Is that right, Mike?
5.75. And I'll give you 2 teams where he would be a great fit. Teams that have the cap room to take that contract on. One is Calgary, because they're going to have young centers in Monahan and Bennett in the next couple years, and having Richards as a third-line center backing them up and showing them what it takes to be a pro make a lot of sense. And the New York Islanders with Tavares and with Grabovski as their top 2. If they had Richards as a shutdown two-way center, and they have tons of cap room, that would make a lot of sense for them, and they could contend this year if they added a Richards. But the contract for teams like the Capitals, the Leafs, and the Penguins, who are right now in a sense in cap jail because they have a lot of long-term deals, it's going to be tough for them.
I keep asking how they're going to do it, and I'm not being told how. So what do you, so I didn't. I mean, but I've been told that before. Ryan. Your thoughts on Jeff Petrie?
Well, it's interesting because the Red Wings were in Edmonton last week, and the media in Edmonton is funny because all the questions directed toward Mike Babcock and even a couple of quotes from Ken Holland were relating to the team's need for a right-shooting defenseman. Do you need a right-handed shot defenseman back there? Because they went through the Wings roster and saw that they only have one right-shooting player in the entire roster in that game against Edmonton last week, and it was a fourth-line center. And so, of course, the media trying to connect the dots. Petrie's father, Dan Petrie, former Major League pitcher for the Tigers, and so it's long been rumored that Petrie is going to end up with the Red Wings. I'm not sure there's a lot of smoke there, but I'm not sure there's any fire. I'm not sure if the Red Wings are actually interested in making that a legitimate deal, but we do know that Petry's not going to be back. There are not any negotiations at this point on an extension. He's a UFA this summer. The Oilers are going to look to deal him for as much return as they can. I do think they'll wait to the deadline to see what the market's like. I think they have more interest, and I think the value increases as we get closer to the deadline. But it's unfortunate because he has been the Oilers' best defenseman, even though he's kind of taken an easy way out and really not putting his entire effort in. His hit totals and block shot totals are going to be half of what they were last season, which just shows you the guy has really checked out. He's not willing to commit, not really willing to put in the effort, which you can't blame him. That situation in Edmonton right from the start has been terrible this season, and so it's tough because I don't know where the Oilers go from here as far as shoring up their blue line, other than just waiting for some young reinforcements to come in. But I think he definitely goes in. If the Red Wings aren't a good landing spot for him, I could see the Kings definitely. Maybe a team like the Blue Jackets, if they're looking to make a playoff run, they could maybe use him to, because he's a good two-way player. He can play a little bit on the power play if you need him to. Has a pretty decent shot and defensively reliable in his own zone.
Yeah.
I mean, circumstances stepped in here over the last week or so with defensemen. I mean, it's widely known now that Pittsburgh is going to be looking for somebody with Mata probably being out for the season. And, the reporting has been out there that Dean Lombardi with Voynov probably, he can't depend on him coming back, that they're going to be looking for a defenseman. So, I mean, I don't know if Petry fits in there or if Washington is going to entertain trading Mike Green or Mark Stahl or Cody Franzen, but there are enough pending free agents out there that there's going to be, a pretty vigorous market on before March the 2nd.
Yeah. Kevin?
I see Petry as the plan B for a lot of teams.
Right.
And I think there is fire with the Red Wings. I believe they see Petry as a guy that would be a nice fit for them. The right shot issue has been a problem for a while. They tried to address it in the offseason, couldn't get anything done. And they think Petry, as most teams do, would be a much better player in a different organization. And, it'd be interesting. I've said all along I thought that Petry would get a second-round pick in return. But who knows? If there's a bidding on it, depending on what Washington does with Green, depending on what happens with Stahl, Petry could become among the more desirable, players out there just because he does have some experience. I've talked to a couple of pro scouts about him. Who have said that they feel that I think Ryan kind of hit it on the head where he's played pretty well, just not as intense as they would like to see him. But they think if he got with the playoff style team that would all change.
Richard in our chat room, Kevin throws out this possible trade: Kindle and a third for Petry.
Well, that for sure they'd give up Kindle in the trade. That would be a reasonable trade. I don't think the Oilers would do that. To be honest, I think they feel they can probably do better than that. They probably want that second-round pick.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. All right, good. What do you got in news, Josh?
Well, first of all, I want to take a quick poll from you guys.
Yep.
Ryan Suter gets suspended for 2 games for an elbow. Did you guys all see it?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you think he deserved 2 games?
Yes.
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 I'm with you.
Okay. Did anyone see the David Booth hit last night? David Booth got crushed by Sami Vatanen.
Yes.
Kind of similar plays a little bit, both extending the elbow. Would you say Vatanen deserved a suspension?
They weren't similar because the Suter hit was at center ice, or at the in the center of the ice, and Booth was along the boards, and Vatanen was along the boards and going for the puck and was reaching for the puck. It didn't look like it had intent. From what I'm hearing, they're not even going to review it. So
yeah, Well, Vatanen's been fined $3,393.82. It's at 80 cents that bothers me. But the maximum allowed under the CBA, I thought it should have gotten 1 game, but oh my.
But you know what? I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I haven't heard any update on Booth's prognosis, but with his history of concussion issues, and I saw he had to be helped by both officials and one Leaf player back to the bench. I'd be surprised if he plays another game for the Leafs this year. He was very jelly-legged when he was...
Might not play another game, period, because of his concussion history.
That's
Speaking of hits, Flyers announced today that Scott Lawton will not play Thursday versus Canucks because of an upper body injury. He's listed as day-to-day. We'll see if it's really day-to-day. I think it's going to be longer than that. In Phoenix, head coach Dave Tippett says Captain Shane Doan and D-man Brendan Gormley will not play tonight. Both have lower body injuries, who are also listed as day-to-day. Tyler Toffoli will be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. As we know, he is dealing with mono, and per LA Kings Insider says it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. Could be longer. Other things I want to bring up with you guys. Did you notice or hear about on Tuesday that Johnny Hockey trademarked Johnny Hockey? Did you guys hear about that?
No, he did not, really.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
His agent saying that they were concerned that people were going to abuse the Johnny Hockey nickname, which is why he trademarked
Abuse
Johnny
it?
Hockey.
In other words, make T-shirts up that say Johnny Hockey?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be able
And
to.
last, oh, sorry.
I officially trademarked Johnny Podcast. So anyway,
And lastly, guys, some interesting quotes coming out of St. Louis this morning at practice with Ken Hitchcock. Ken Hitchcock, you know, he's always will never give you a bad quote. They asked him about Marty Brodeur, and Hitch said that he was kind of caught everybody off guard. We didn't know what was going on, still don't know what's going on, but him being here, man, it really was helpful to every piece of this organization. He shared information that you can't buy. Hitch said from a selfish standpoint that he hopes Brodeur decides to stay in St. Louis. We'll obviously monitor that situation.
let me throw out my little rumor then, Marty Brodeur rumor at the end of the show, like I promised. I heard that Marty was offered a position with the Blues, and might be offered the same kind of position with the Devils, and that's what's happening right now. But there's actually it's a possibility that he might be moving into a hockey role. But apparently kind of took him by surprise that the Blues offered him a spot. The Blues really do like having him out there. He's a very intelligent hockey guy, as we all know. And the Blues offered him a spot, and before he took that spot, I think it's kind of a spot he always assumed he would play with the Devils. Mm-hmm. So what I heard is that's what's being discussed now. So for what it's worth, we'll see.
But do you know the spot that apparently I don't know if this is true or not, but I was told that with the Devils they wanted him on the bench as well with Oates and Stevens. So they want Oates to coach the forwards, Stevens to coach the D, and Brodeur to coach the goalie.
No, this is more of like an assistant GM type role that I was told. So
and Rex Ryan to be the head coach.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, it's just a rumor, like I said. It's a rumor, but it's somebody I really do trust in New Jersey who's been connected with the Devils for a long time. So this is but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
One thing before we end, I heard a couple reports yesterday regarding after the Dubnyk trade that this was going to be the start of the sell-off in Arizona, that Andrew Barroway, the new owner, is basically telling management to cut back payroll, and that might cue the trades of guys like Vermette and Yandel that we've been discussing off and on the last couple months. And it might be, their feel of, okay, we're close to being near the bottom of the league, and maybe we just trade off some of these guys and finish 29th or 30th and get that linchpin player in the draft, and that would be the best thing for the franchise. So that we may be on the lookout for them, not dumping players, but trading players, getting good value for them, and resetting for the draft and for next year.
Yeah, really interesting. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. But we appreciate you guys watching. As always, please continue to subscribe, tell your friends, and family members to subscribe as well. We'll be back again tomorrow on Friday. It'll be Ty Anderson with us for Ty Day Friday. We'll be talking Bruins for sure. And we should have some news then too with Bruins, and we'll see what happens from there. So without the buzz, remember, it is just hockey. Enjoy yourself. Bye.